Hello and welcome your faces to episode number 57 of the series Profit or Loss Season 2. I buy faulty electronic items from eBay, attempt to fix them and sell them for a profit. Recently things have got a bit juicy. For example, we've had a graphics card, a couple of ROG Allies, a motherboard. I'm just going to touch on this real quick. I had a lot of feedback from my last video in episode number 56 of people saying you should just write off the motherboard if you're going to be using it for testing. So it's there, £0 net profit instead of a minus 50 because I'm going to be using it as a test rig. I think you guys were 100% correct and I'll just kind of flatline it. We're just going to quickly ignore the 3080 Ti if you've seen the previous video. As for the ROG Allies, I've actually sold two of them. Obviously one of them I wasn't able to get working in episode number 54, but I have sold two of these now. One of them was a private seller for a straight up £300. So we go 300 right here. How much profit does that give us? Lovely jubbly. We've got £146 and I said it was going to be an estimated 119. When you sell through eBay, I've got 300 here, but there are eBay fees included of around about 9% or so, but I'm obviously not using an eBay fee here because it was sold privately, so therefore £146 total profit is massive. Very, very happy with that. The next one that actually sold on eBay, how much did that one go for? Oh, interestingly, this included postage as well because postage was paid through eBay, so I can make that zero for postage today, which I very rarely do, and it was a total of 291.89. Whoa, 141.89 as well. Let's go. So I've just got one more left to sell, but these are really, really good profits for the ROG Allies. I paid 150 for each of them, and as you can see, we're rolling in the profit. That's good. I'll wait to sell the third one to update the final actual total profit because I'm still looking at this 3080 Ti as well, which as we know might not be looking good. So that brings me to today. What is it we are doing? Well, episode number 57, 3 PS5 disc edition. I'm going to say disc edition consoles. You'll see why I'm saying that in a minute. How much did I pay for each of them, I hear you ask? I'm about to blow your socks off. £40 for each one. Yep, I paid £40. I paid £120 for 3 PlayStation 5s. Let me explain. A business seller on eBay sold somebody 3 faulty PlayStation 5s. When that person received the PlayStation 5s from the business, instead of trying to repair them or break them down for parts and trying to sell it, whatever they do, they took all of the parts from the PlayStation 5s and replaced it with faulty boards and donor boards. They then raised a refund request through eBay to the business and said that the items did not match the description of faulty. I don't know how they won this, but they did. Meaning not only did that person get away with potentially 3 PS5s that they could fix and sell for £250 each, netting them maybe £750 if they were able to fix all 3, but they also got their money back on eBay from the business. So say, for example, again, they paid £150 per PS5. That's an additional £450 plus the £750. We're talking £1,200 here. The business reached out to me and said, we've got these PlayStation 5s back that have random components in now. We have no idea what this person's done with them. Would you like them for £150? I said, no, thank you, but I will do it for £120. If I can get 2 power supplies, it's kind of worth it. I will quickly mention as well how the business knew that this person has swapped out all the parts is because the serial numbers on the chassis of every PS5 was different to the ones that they had recorded. That is what we're going to look at in today's video. Enough jibber jabber. Here are the results. Leave a comment down below. How many out of those 3 do you think I'm going to be able to fix? I'm excited. The only thing that I'm really not excited for is if they're disk drives. If they're digital, lovely jubbly, because digital versions, obviously they don't have a drive to be paired to the main board. So that'll be really, really good. If they are disc editions, I'm going to assume a bit of a problem. Let's see how this goes, shall we? Let's open this first one. This first one is just bubble wrap. The other 2 actually have a box. I'm going to have to really inspect these. So it had some sort of sticker on top. I hear some sort of rattling, like the fans rattling around somewhere. What is it, a 1016A? Oh dear. Okay, well, this is going to be interesting straight off the bat, isn't it? This is a 1016B. Okay, why on earth has somebody taken a blowtorch to this? What? I'm trying to get the light in. That's not a soldering iron, by the way. That's not a soldering iron. That's a blowtorch. All right, my kind of like excitement to look at these has gone down a little bit. Okay, let's take, well, that wasn't hard to take off actually. Oh, it was kind of loose. Okay, so I've just put it back. Warranty sticker gone. I just thought by some miracle, you know, there's always a part of me that holds on to that. Straight off the bat, I've got one of these as a spare part, so I'm happy with my £120 paid, plus I'll get content. I am okay with this purchase. Chassis itself is okay, so again, I'm happy. I get the plates All right, so first things first, the connector's missing. The connector for the disk drive power on the main board is missing. It's gone. Okay, I had a crackle. It doesn't really mean much, to be honest. Ooh, the power button. The power button I can't press because it's burnt. I'm not joking. The power button itself is pushed into the chassis. Can you see there? Look. What's happened? You know what I was saying about the condition of this being okay? And the eject button also is the same. It doesn't smell good. No, it doesn't smell at all. It doesn't smell at all, which gives me good hopes that the power supply has not blown up. Okay, well, that fan came out fine. It's a little bit dusty, but again, okay, nonetheless. Oh, wow, wait, that's not coming out. Why is this stuck to the chassis? Okay, so I see why this is stuck to the chassis. Because of the fact that it's melted. It's also had UART done to it. The ribbon cable is mashed, by the way. It is mashed. There is no power button connecting to it. Oh no. So UART done. I guarantee, I swear, if I've called this again, by the way, I reckon maybe just a faulty cable. If this PS5 has been through the ringer because of the fact somebody has misrepaired it and it's been a faulty LED cable, there's no way they've done this to this PS5 and it's just, wait, this is a digital board. That makes sense. Before I actually now give this power with a power on button, they've destroyed down here as well on this cable. So what they've done is they've taken out this disk drive, they've taken out this motherboard and replaced it with a digital one that's had UART done to it. I wonder how many chips and stuff are going to be missing from this board. I'll be super interested to find out, actually. If I get a good power supply, like I said, I'm kind of happy, but as well as the fact that I potentially also get a disk drive here that I can harvest for parts, which is always good to have. I don't know what the status of that is going to be, mind you. Don't forget, a lot of people often think that this is something that they can do super easily. And they see myself or anyone else making money through doing this online, but they don't actually realize the amount of time and effort you have to put in, which I'm trying to get better at, as in telling people. I'm actually really scared to take this chassis off. Okay. I'm going to say okay. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, it's so dark because of lighting, guys. Outside, it's getting dark now, earlier and stuff. So it looks darker than it is. These boards are the digital boards, the 1016Bs. Oh, sorry, not the 1016Bs, but the 010s are darker. So it does look dark, but it's not that dark. It's just the camera playing tricks on you. I'll tell you where my thought process goes. There's flux around the retimer just here, and it's like dry flux. So I think they've tried to change out the encoder IC. There's not been a HDMI port swap. The clamp is missing from the APU, which is obviously a big no-no. I can't necessarily see anything else that's jumping out at me, as in there doesn't look to be any chips missing. They might have attempted to change the RT chip down here. They've clearly done UART on these 2 points here. This cable is completely ruined, by the way. It is completely shot. If this is a beep on beep off or something along those lines, it could definitely be this cable. 100%. So I'm going to see what happens with this cable plugged in just as is. I'm just going to disconnect this. And I don't know whether to put a clamp on now or just inspect the other side quick. I'm going to inspect the other side. So let me take out this ribbon cable, because if I'm missing Southbridge SSD controller, then we're going to have an issue, obviously. The board, I know it sounds really stupid. The board feels really like it's had so much work done to it. This board is absolutely filthy. This is absolutely disgusting. It's someone else's donor board. The encoder IC is missing down here. I have a Southbridge and I have an SSD controller. The question that's going through my head is that if this is somebody's donor board, then why on earth do you have the Southbridge and the SSD controller still on the board? If you were going to salvage parts, those are the parts you would salvage. Why is it a donor board? I hear you ask. Because there are several caps missing. Can you see that there's caps missing on the Wi-Fi IC, but on the back of the Wi-Fi IC? You probably can't with that, but I'll go under the scope in a second. First thing I'm going to do, one of the first things I'm going to do, is plug in my multimeter and check and see if I get 12 volts on the power supply. Because if I get 12 volts on the power supply, again, this kind of makes it a win for me. Bearing in mind, I've paid £40 for this. That's how we need to look at it. I've paid £40, okay? DC voltage. Bosh. There we go. Can you guys see? 12 Vs, no Res. So we get 12 Vs on the PSU, I'm happy. I have to bear in mind that this power supply could be faulty in the sense of just random PSU faults. That is still a possible... They've even unscrewed the plate. I mean, these wires are completely duffed up as well because they've been trapped. And I've got a bottom chassis. This whole thing's done for as well. This whole... Oh my God. There's so much of this, it is parts. They must have literally just put together a bunch of faulty parts and sent it back. Everything must have been faulty, because I can't use that. I'm just going to be completely wasting my time with this. And it's not very often, you guys know the channel, it's not very often that I go ahead and say I'm not looking at this. It's not very often at all, especially in the name of profit or loss. So I've got liquid metal just splattered about. Here is the encoder IC that is missing. So they've clearly yeeted that off the board. They've not done anything to the HDMI port. Let's see how bad this actually is. The power rail, everything seems to be there. All of those components. So again, 12-volt line mostly seem to be there. Yeah, all good. That's the USB-C controller down there. We've got the... So I'm going to check now, and I'm going to quickly see... Oh, it's corroded. Look, it's corroded. I think that's like... They must have... I don't know what they've done. I honestly can't tell you what they've done. I want to ask a question. Why is it so hairy? Yeah, this is just absolutely done for. Caps missing. Sorry, I'm not even going to say caps missing. Whoever worked on this, they must have knocked them because they're ripped. They've tried to rebuild the circuit for where the disk drive is. That BIOS chip is definitely not... probably not the factory BIOS chip, or it's one that they have attempted to fix this with, you know. And I'm just going to check under the south bridge and see what the balls are like, just for interest purposes, I guess. What balls? That's been squished. The south bridge has been squished. And then let's check the SSD controller just for fun. It's been changed, or they've done a bad job putting this back, because there's just like flux under there again, under this corner specifically. This is a DOA. This is one that we are not going to be working on, unfortunately. Now, I've obviously got 2 more to open, and I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off and open them and see if they're going to be like this. Now, I can only use this as a donor. The thing is, I don't even know if I want to use this SSD controller and this south bridge, because chances are, looking at what I've just seen, they are most probably ones that have been put on that are faulty. So I think it's more than fair to say that I just take the loss on this. You know, like I said, £120. This is £40 worth of that 120. So I think we just move on to the next one and see how we get. I'm also going to keep this in a video because I want people to be super aware of what can happen on eBay. You know, it's not all roses and sunshines. It's this happens more than not, and it's not eBay's fault. Obviously, it's more so the people that abuse and use the system to do it. I bought this knowing that people have potentially swapped out the parts. I bought it under that. The second PS5 out of this lot. Is this going to be any better or worse? Cross my fingers for another good PSU. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully. Again, plates, happy. Hair, nice. This one isn't burnt, at least at the bottom. This is obviously a digital edition. We don't have a disk drive with this one. I don't want to attempt to turn these on. There's literally no point. Fan, hopefully okay. Hopefully working. This one's also had UART done to it, by the way. At least it's got the ribbon cable attached for the power cable. We're missing a bunch of silver screws. So again, I'm not going to apply power to this. I'm also just going to inspect the board first. Does that make sense? So let me take that out. The antenna cables were not put back. I need to check. Let's see how this is. No clamp. Shock. So we have no clamp on this one. That HDMI is utterly dispatched, by the way. You guys can't see, but I'll show you in a minute. That is, the state of this board is crazy. I mean, the rest of it actually doesn't look too bad. I'm not seeing nowhere near as like much mess as what the other one did have. However, the HDMI port is mashed up. So this side isn't actually too bad. Like the other one, I guess. The other one wasn't that too bad on this side. So let me flip it over and see what it looks like on the other side. 3, 2, 1. Okay. You know what? Okay, so the south bridge looks like it's got flux around. The SSD controller doesn't. It looks like the BIOS chip has perhaps been changed. South bridge change, BIOS change, and by the looks of it, a HDMI port. Let's check. This is looking a lot better than the other one, though. A lot better. Yeah, it's definitely had some flux around the south bridge. It doesn't look like leaded solder used on the BIOS chip, which is this one here, by the way. So this is the BIOS chip. I don't think, and we've got resistors next to it. Those resistors have a flux type residue around it. Let me check underneath the south bridge to see what that's looking like. Hey, is that... Oh, I don't know whether that's factory or not, you know. That might actually be factory. And maybe they've just changed the BIOS and the flux has gone under the south bridge. That might be the logic here. They've changed the BIOS because they thought they had some sort of a BIOS issue. As a result of that, the flux has gone underneath the south bridge. That's where my brain, my diagnostic brain, goes pretty much straight off the bat. So I'm actually looking at this with a little bit of positivity. Now, I'm only going to be able to get this working as a digital board, unfortunately, because we do not have the paired disk drive for this console. So therefore the disk drive is just not going to work. But I can make it into a digital. I can make it into a digital. I don't think I can see any... I mean, this is just messy. This is really messy. I'm going to clean this up because I'm just looking straight at APU, just in case they've kind of diagnosed it as a bad APU. You know what I mean? Oh no, that's coming off. Wait there. I'm hoping that there's not a vast array of liquid metal underneath here, if I'm honest. Lord. Glove. Oh, why did I take it off? Put it back on. I don't want to see it. Put it back on. Oh, no. Let me tell you what's happened. This person has gone ahead and assumed it's a bad APU. Is that a crack? I think we have a cut corner. This person has assumed, the person who had it before me has assumed that it's a bad APU. So what they've done is they've taken off the glue to see if there's any liquid metal around here that has touched the caps. And subsequently, they have then filled in this area with, I don't know if that is conformal coating or whether they've just melted the plastic that's meant to be here. I'm actually very confused. I can't, oh no, wait, it is the plastic. What? What have they done to this? I know what they've done. They've attempted to reflow the APU. Right? Is that a missing cap? Have they... Oh. Okay. Yeah, so this isn't good. So what's happened here is I believe that they have, in my opinion, tried to reflow the APU. And whilst they've tried to reflow the APU, they've actually knocked this cap off, this poor little cap, as well as maybe just destroyed the APU. Oh, okay. This one might be over as well. Oh my gosh, the board is warped. Oh my gosh. Can you see how the corners are touching the PCB? This is not a good sign. This board is warped. They have warped the board because that chip should be flat. Not flat. It should be like the middle. You see how the middle is like, you can see the nice shiny balls, but that chip is literally touching PCB. The corner of that chip is touching the PCB, which is definitely not meant to be happening. If you use balls too small, you're stuffed. If you use them too big, you're stuffed. It's the same every single side. It's just the middle underneath the APU has just been bent. Oh, I can't even see the balls on this side. Look. Oh, wow. Can you believe this was once PS5? I just want to check. I'm going to look at the HDMI port because it looked quite comical when I saw it earlier. Okay, so the flux they've used is just, it's plumber's flux or something, and it's just super corrosive by the looks of it because it's eating away at that copper and just stained it. The solder's gone up the legs, which is nice. They have burnt a bit of the plastic, so they've tried to stick like an iron in there, I think, and maybe get rid of some bridges or something, but it's missing the cap that is closest to the HDMI port as well. The thing that I saw at the back, which I was like, oh my gosh, this has been butchered, is this. Look at that. Wow. That is a sight for sore eyes, hey? I'm not even necessarily talking about what's happened here because you can argue that as long as the solder has flown through, which it has because it goes up the legs on the other side of the port, so therefore the port is stable. It doesn't look pretty, but the port is stable. But if we just look at the copper, look at all of the stained copper, man. This board has seen some stuff. I feel really sorry for it. And you can tell it's been cooked. Do you know why? Look at the copper here. Let's grab our multimeter and just check and see if our power supply is good. I've plugged it in. So do we get 12 Vs or has all hope been lost? All hope's been lost. This is completely dead. This power supply's done. All right, on to the next one. The boxes are in a state as well. So I literally just chuck away the boxes. I chuck away everything. I'll tell you what, first impressions on all of them have been good. Except for the one that obviously had the massive hole in it. Okay, like I said, I hope we have working fans. If I have a good power supply here, I would argue the fact that I have indeed made my money back. There's liquid metal on this fan. I've just seen somewhere. It caught my eye. There it is. It's right here. There's a tiny, tiny splash of liquid metal. How bad is it going to be? Oh, it's a smaller board as well. Okay, interesting. So this is a 1-2. I want to say this is 1216A, hey? Or 1216B. 1216A. I can see flux. I can see solder on you up. That's the first thing I'm going to say and mention here. I can see solder and I can see flux on you up. I'm going to disconnect the disk drive. At least it has a disk drive. Yeah, true. Exactly. So this is a disk drive edition and it has a disk drive. That's a rarity, I think. I think it's safe to say. Unfortunately, it does have all the screws on. Now, by the looks of it, this cable's been chewed up. So we know UART's been done on this board again because I can see the solder and I can see the flux and, well, the burnt flux. The HDMI port's not being changed. I can see flux around the RAM. There is a cap missing here, I think anyway. I can't actually confirm. Let me take off the clamp. I can see, like I said, oh no, oh my gosh, I thought it was a T8. I'm pretty sure this is meant to be a T8 clamp, by the way, on the 1200 series. We have a clamp, but I believe they've put the wrong screws in. I'm sure it's meant to be a T8. I know they've already screwed this board over by putting this clamp on because I think if you put the Phillips screws, they're not the same size as what the T8 ones are. And what that's going to do is really damage the board, especially over a prolonged period of time. This screw right here is way too short for this board, and they would have damaged the board with this screw, I'm pretty sure. There's caps missing on the RAM. I've never seen that in my life. Okay, this is actually really good. Why is it good, I hear you ask? Because I have an SSD controller and a Southbridge. If it's a 12168, it's a 030 EDM board. Let me just check something. We have a 69 GG. Wait, I think a normal an older Southbridge. The older one is a 61 GG. So actually, I have a newer Southbridge on here, which is worth about £60 or something stupid. Yeah, the Southbridge and the SSD controller don't look touched at all, FYI. So this one, I actually, if I'm being honest, I have good hopes. I'm just going to check the RAM under the scope, because if they've put incorrect RAM on this, that could be the reason as to why they've just chucked it back in the chassis, perhaps. Is this one of the ones that... No, this isn't one of the ones. Is it? No, so is that cap meant to... Is there meant to be a cap there? I'm not too sure. Yeah, see how I've got caps here? Look, I've got a cap here, but I don't have a cap here. How strange is that? Cap here, cap here, cap here. No cap here. However, people who do this often, like myself, will know that that kind of looks like there's not meant to be a cap there. So is there meant to be a cap there? I'm not even too sure. I actually think that's like a factory clean. That kind of looks factory clean to me. That cap is missing. Oh, okay, interesting. Why would they have taken it off? I'm assuming maybe they've rebuilt this chip as well. Let's have a look. That looks to me like it's been put on. There is potentially a chance that we can restore this board and get it working. Do you know why? The RAM that we have, which is factory, is this one here, this Micron RAM, right? 2ZC47. So what I'm doing now is I'm installing my UART cables. Oh yes, yeah, very, very good point. I'm not even tested if it's no power yet. Could just be a faulty power supply they put in here as well. Yeah, beep on, beep off. Okay, cool. So we should get a UART reading. Yeah, so it says RAM GDDR6 bank 6 single beep 1 second blod, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one right here. That's where we've got our issue. Now we're actually missing some capacitors here as well. So it wouldn't actually surprise me if we had errors because of those caps. I don't know how much of an important part they have to play, but they are on their own as well. You know, maybe it was an oversight from the person who was working on it that the caps are missing. I have to bear in mind everything at the moment. I'm just seeing what the rest of the string says. I'm going to start with replacing the caps that are missing on the pieces of RAM. I'll start with that. After that, I'm then going to focus on RAM 6, which is this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because that is what UART is saying is there's something wrong. Now, I've personally had it before where in an unfortunate situation, you replace that and it says the exact same thing, which is why I think that this person has then gone ahead and tried to reboot the ones that are next to it and this one over here. Whereas these 4 are actually original for this console. So these 4 are donors because they have the different code compared to these 4, and these ones don't have flux around, so that's why I can see the difference between them. The caps are not populated on some revisions, no, question mark. Oh, okay, interesting, Ben, because it doesn't, like I did say that, it doesn't look like they're meant to be there. Okay, I'll say the first things first. I've just checked some board revisions, and I know that these caps look like they should be here. Not that one specifically, but more so this one is like a flat pad, and this one, and not that one. So it's completely random. However, I've just checked on a bunch of other revisions, and the first 3 RAM chips, so for example, number 1, number 2, and number 3, are all populated. The others are not. So I genuinely don't believe that there's meant to be caps on these pads, and I think the person who's worked on the board has maybe just accidentally wicked some of the solder off. So I'm just going to start by taking off this RAM IC here, which is, like we've discussed, number 6, which is supposedly the issue that we have. Now it's most probably going to be leaded. I'm just going to go 460 degrees Celsius here with an airflow speed of 99% just to get this one off the board. Fume extractor is on because health is wealth, and then I'm simply going to reboot another IC and replace it. I have just asked Ben, I said, would I be able to potentially, oh, there's a lot of flux here to be honest, wow, look at that. I have asked Ben to say, you know, would it be possible to take this off and then do UART? But supposedly it's just going to give us the exact same error if the RAM is not populated, so there's no point in taking this off and then doing UART. There we go, take it off, perfect. To be honest with you, I've not even listened to my own advice. I didn't have everything ready, so the board's gone a little bit cold now. But now I've got my wick over here. I'm just going to wick all of this up quickly. But you might be thinking, what? Why are you applying hot air again, Joey? It's just to make the board warm again because I let it cool down a little bit too much. And then I'll come in and wick. Actually, at this point in the video, I was talking about how the previous person had done a pretty stellar job about taking this RAM off and replacing it, and it looks like they were fully competent. I then go ahead and use some solder mask on some of the more damaged pads after this looks like it's been, taken off and put back on about 3 or 4 times. So understandably, some of the pads might be a little bit scuffed. And then, however, this happened. So this nightmare actually continues. I was just about to reball RAM. Now, if you look at my motherboard stash, for PlayStation 5 specifically, I have a lot of them. There's probably about 5 slim boards in there. Now, when I say slim board, I mean 030 or 031, 033, etc. I do not have a single RAM stick that is compatible with this specific board. It's D9ZPL Micron RAM, which is the RAM that I'm looking for, and I can't find it. I've just had a look on AliExpress. £6 from a 2-star rated seller. That's it. Everywhere else is sold out because RAM at the moment, for some reason, is just ridiculously hard to get hold of. I don't even know if I want to spend £6 to see if I get this board working, because clearly the person who had this previous is competent. I can't deny that. They've replaced the RAM chips, they've used solder mask, they look like they've actually done a really good job, albeit they have scammed a business seller on eBay, which obviously wasn't very nice. Being 100% frank and honest, I don't want to have to wait from AliExpress to wait, a week or so to get this RAM and pay £6 for it. B, the second option is replace all of the RAM, Joey, that you have on the board. And again, I think that would just be silly to do in this circumstance. I don't think there's a need to do that. If RAM Bank 6 has been swapped and it's not working, the chances of me actually replacing all the other RAM sticks and then getting it working is pretty slim, I'd say. Plus, I also have to think about this logically. I can't sit here and spend, hours on end swapping all 8 banks of RAM. Maybe for some content on a live stream, I might visit it. But for me personally, I just don't think this is worth it for the profit or loss aspect for me to spend all this time on this board. Or money, essentially, from a 2-star AliExpress seller. I don't even know if it's going to be the right RAM. The only option for me to carry on here would have been if I had that exact RAM from a donor board and I could just simply swap it on and we see the results. I'm sorry, this is an awful end to the video. It's horrendous. I hate it, but I need to also keep my stress levels down as well. If I do decide to just change all 8 different RAM sticks, maybe for content on a live stream, I'll make sure to update a pinned comment down below or talk about it in a future profit or loss. There's also not going to be anything to update in Sally's Spectacular Spreadsheet because unfortunately, out of the 3 PS5s that we purchased, we fixed none. Understandably, I kind of went into this one knowing that that would be the case. However, it still pains me. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry, again, it's a really rubbish ending. If you did somehow enjoy it, then hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and as always, I shall see you in the next one. Peace.